Aso, Rashitele, tomorrow. Lasso, Tiring Tangazo, Tizu Chevaji, Nani, Pendajivi, Katsarata, Saka Dawaji, Ti, Tisan Zachimbuzi, Tizula, Ani, Natsan Zoya Juya, Go Chung.
Greetings for everyone. Please let me know if you can hear me or not. Today is a very special event, the 15th of the Saka month, and it's wonderful to meet you and be with you here on this very special day.
Sanjin Jumdindi, Ani, Gui Yende, Tu Yende, Chile Yendenta, Zachimbo, Samjim Jawa, Tiningazo, Simjan Tamje, Taji Karzoro, Dumbalana Meva, Jobalana Meva, Tindi Yeda, Lo Nido, Navji Hona, Pedeagi, Lamandeta, Nazoye, Karzoro, Lama Jumeva ina, Hani Kongi Sung, Jejoa, Tini, Simjan Tamjene, Dunge Mandeva, Devandeva, Digi Nitsingane, Kongita, 다 띵중기 대코나니기 다 동행져야 대양 아니 주제를 되는 용대야 지다 대화져야 돼 주제를 되는 용대와 인자네 아니 공기다 두질라나 매반디기 아니 심진지 동행 탐지 쓸바치와 당 그런다 잡 봉년라야 돼난 공기 두질라나 매바 심진 탐지라 아니 달바다 탐지 진배 공방 그게 투지만 남자 친구지 나야와 되게 되네 아니 나서 질랍 자 친구 진지야 돼다 심전 탐지 대두기 니지 참말로 대 땡중이 대 코나니 아니 공부자야지 돼 나서 투지라나 매와 dombalana 매와 땡줄라나 매와 아니지 냠뇽라나 매와 라야디 다 잠블링 디나라 잡다 쥐방 건담 뽕니 제사 아니 디마도 매반데 공기 고연데 투연데 섬지미 저반데 데서 타다는 야기 제트베다 요 말이 되라예 되네 타이비 심전 탐지 랑탄자와 동해만 되바다 대반대위 니츠잉하네 아니 심전 탐지 라쿨 라는메발이야 아니 대양 동해 대양 아니 주단 제이 니츠잉하네 아니 중대와지 인자네 아니 공기 땡레기 뚜르게 하네 아니 동해 쌀답체야 당보 동해 모드야 아니 되네 동해인데 지 근중기 니츠잉하네 아니 빵주여 대와 아니 지 람된 당고대 라서베 한다 당부 중고 수능지 되나가서라 자침부 답된 연전 된듯이 제주여바디 까와 정보 인장 아니 드링가서 아니 산지 추스마 직수미 안에 아니 마 잔주선배 돈바마 지오스
So about 2,500 years ago, this incredible teacher, master, the really excellent teacher who relying on the teaching of dependent origination with reasons, using logic, try to really see how we can seize the sufferings in this samsara. And thanks to his incredible teachings, today many sentient beings finding him as a true savior, a true teacher who can really eliminate the sufferings. And these sufferings that he is talking about is really tracing to the root of the sufferings, teaching a way to cut through this suffering. So the teachings become very powerful and blissful. When Buddha was referring to the sufferings or the happiness, he really looked at the origin of the sufferings, the causes of the sufferings, and asked, through that to try to find a cessation, a cause of the cessation of the suffering. And therefore, for many of us, the followers, find him a true, teacher, Lord, Savior, because relying on him and his teachings, there are so many sentient beings are able to cut and get rid of the sufferings. So his teaching of the dependent origination, the Dinchun, It's really very profound. As a result, many people around the world finding his teaching very blissful and powerful. As a result, when we think about Buddha today, we think about the qualities. Buddha is the quality of his teaching, due to his profound and realization for his the quality of the mind, and so on. And therefore, when you look at in the Buddha's teaching, he really look at the identification of the sources of the suffering. First he introduced the suffering, and then looking at the origin of the suffering, and then teaches the path to eliminate the suffering, and then teaching where talk about the cessation of the suffering. And so we're thinking about these wonderful qualities of our Buddha, thinking about profound teachings, the dependent origination, and so on. We are going to take a Bodhisattva vow today. So when you take the Bodhisattva vow, think about all these wonderful qualities of the Buddha, his the, speech, and so on, and think about profound this teaching about the dependent origination, the Dinchun. And with these, strong the reasons, the grounds, and then we take the Bodhisattva today.
Sanjin Chudang Suji Chunang La Shanju Pato Dane Jasuchi Dagi Jiso Chibe Sunang Jin Dula Pindi Sanjin Druvar Shu Sanjin Chudang Suji Chunang La Shanju Pato Dane Jasuchi Dagi Jesu Chive Sunam Ji Dolo Pinte Sanjin Drubar Shu Sanjin Chut Soji Chunam La Chanju Pardo Dani Jesu Ji Dagi Jesu Chive Sunam Ji Dolo Pinte Sanjin Drubar Shu Semjen Damjen Dewa Dam Devi Judan Dembar Juju Dungen Dan Dungen Je Judan Treva Juju Dungen Mebe Dewa Damba Dam Treva Juju Niren Chadan Nidan Che Danyang Naniban Juju Kangi tu zeni zonwe dawa tamji bangwe je dambe chunen tenze ko damde la chaze. Doni ni je zongdan juwe lan che che sense kanjen ten zhenggen chanan be mo tinzin jaso sowan de so tuyi yerme sho. This. Lasso. Tini. 다 다리 주변 나지. 나저 산지 좀 된데 남바. 제 남바 참아 남바 사반자. 인지리. tini tu karzur tu chebaji dela ta sanjinji chimbalana meba nimbalana meba ani zebalana meba imba songzang ani ngazo japsun royra japsun royaji jumzenra de desa chimbaina ani japsun rolali gajen chiada soso tangdeleanda daji soso karse nangba yinanda menanda teni chembalana mebate tachimbushio zirendo ani ngazo ta chemba sena ji shirap pyutu chungwa ani chi nang sangwa de khona nishi shesha yong su zopa ye ngui nisu kang yimba chi yimba jembar sheyandi shirap lana meba 아니 침발라나 메버들이들이 ane tu sumge semjen tang sanjen ye goba yon su zoba tene kusum tuk lunga ye sum yon su zoba ye ane ki ngo karimba ane jibu karimba namba karimba ande chang malwa ane ji karzoru jutumbingani shardeva de chang malwa chendewa de la chembalana mewa sungore 이마다 데 가서 대시 거야 돼 가래세나 아 가서 셈제 정말로와 아니 동해 만들와 대완대와 인장 아니 네 정말로와 따와 진질로야다 아니 지 쩌바 진질로와 니 중간에 셈제 세 송유스러와 아니 따와 친지 말로와다 쩌바 친지 말로와 내니 중든 주비에 ngola는 메바지 또 온르드 산진세 딘데 송대여서와 태송장 아주 다 동에 만들바데 메바체발라 시랍라나 메바지게 메바 마체바이나 아니 지단게 레와잠다 아니 다자 메바잠다 아니 지 가져르다 존도 잠게 아니 이시치 연주라 갈래카고 보시로 태송장 산제지 침발라는 메와 세디 아니 저 탐제지 니룩 데코나니 자무 동바니 세 송는데 양답이 나와대 첸로로 맞지 디시나 셈지 데니 양답이 나와대 시나 펜도 가래요리 양답이 나와대 마시바나 네바 가래요리스 송아이나 맞죠 동해 정말로가디 따와 친질로게 이제자치우리 동해 이제 짜와디 다 지금도 사실다 디몽아제 라 속바 응주라테서 탈뚝니 파 신토게 마스나 짜와 동벌라 투와이나 당지 마리바이가라 투와인장 되니 당지 마리바 라야디 로 친질로 응의 니치다 아니 마튠바 마치 응의 니치당 겐도 여비 아니 전도 길로 아니 응의 니치 마치마지 인자 아니 디에 응의 니치 하마고 인자 추조로와 추조서 인자니 동에 디용데 거리 되니 지 다음에 와라 딱든지마다 매장와라 장만지마다 메다와라 딱반지마다 아니지 딱 한달 덴디로 친지로로 라 속바 디 찡와 인자니 아니 저기 대샤 세당 티무 낙셈 내심 록다 라이게 아니 뇽몽벨로 라야디 맞아 동에 존이기 로디 제용도 에 동에 중대거와 당부디 따와디 친지 말로 와지 연나 아니 쩌바디야 친지 말로 와지 찬로와 쩌바 친지로 세디 아니 랑지보 자와지야 아니 랑 라야디야 아니지 가져로 랑지 줍대와 여대와 랑기 가사다 독사 가리나 그 띵주 많이 받고 똑똑지 빼지 강이라 마대와지 똑똑 진진대와지 진바딜라 아니 랑 진진다 당진 디기 때네 아니 쩌반데 자와 가르치 치와 있나 랑된 거랑 나야가 아니 장보 용서 줘봐 나랑 거대야 안지 덴디지 니치지 안에 로디 부스 도보 로 충용 아니 저바 친지 말로 라디 타이비 semje 정말로 동해 만들어 대와 뇌비지 로리여 타타라 아니 정말로 직송 인장 랑나지 대와여나 가와라 동해여나 독대와기 서로한 니기 띵네 랑기 서로한 디 semje 끊라 여와 송장 데니 랑기 남준도 니레 초하노라 데니지 잔드르주 년장주 아니지 따뇽라 니야지 로 냠바티즈디 눈주임바 토네 에 칼레라 산지 좀 된데 라야데 쳔발라나 메바 아니 용수 줘봐 띵중기 대코나니 정모 동반이 쳔대와 니도 송아이나 랑기 차당 모습 나야데 메바서야 대승장 따완데 리직 자치 모린도와 시럽 피도 좋아. 데라 가진치 거야도 데라 가서 Then Tabachico and Door, Dindigi needs you ngane. I even Semje Tomalo, and it's Dawa Chinjumalo digi, Chimbalana meva digi, and it Zewalana meva. Rang Chipo Mahimba, Taiwe Semje Tamji, and it's Majila Fuji Yo Nagi, Zevi John Nagi, Semje Samaloa. Topcha Lana mevaji, Rangingi, and it Tatu Dawa Chinjumalo, the Dojo Yovati. Ani Digi Nissungani, and Semjan Samaloa, Tawan Dinana, and Jemban Duvat, Gumban Duvat, Japan Duvat, Nimban Duvat, Semjela, Ninjilana Meva, the Chingoroa. Ninji Jedang Tea Yang, Semje Dungi Manduvare, Devan Duvare. Yina Yang, Dungi Jumashi, Dewa Jumashi, Langle Chinjilon Chundi, and Longa, Tangji the Tong Longa Najis in the Shandu Hamagoni. That's a Koran Cordero. Tesungza Sanji Chu de la Yang, any G Dawa Chinjimaluati. Ngani, any Karsoro. Da Ninji Chut Parvat. Dear Shirabi in between. Ani Ninji Lana Mevas, Charawa, Zewalana Meva, Zewalana Meva Digi, and Nimbalana Meva. 제장 친지 뉴스기 다니 딘디지라 님발라나 메발라야디 아니 랑기 제발라나 메바 디기 인제부데 정죽 있음 심전 탐지 젬바다 잡아 님반 딘디라나 메바 디기 디울라 님발라나 메바디 아니 제 뒤다 남바 끈도 핀데 바직 또 더비야 대왕 바직 준 더비야 랑 대왕 바직 제 대왕 바직 준 더비야인데 Zevalana Mevagi, any Jibun Nimba Lana Mevazio, Insang, Dingazo Gogro. Dindizilla, Japsche, Javrona, Chella Japs Ching, Dinisung the Chella, and be Japs Ching, Jarona, Javia is Judua, so Ichi Chesai Tua. Gone the mount, I know.
I'll do my best. So a lot of us are new Buddhists here, and we're taking refuge in our three jewels. One of the very important things to think about when you take a refuge is really look at the qualities of the three jewels. Without knowing the qualities of the three jewels, the refuge may not be effective and powerful. So when you really think about the qualities of the three jewels, or what we really think is the unexcelled, power of the all-knowing, the quality of the Buddha, the unexcelled, the power of the compassion, and the unexcelled, ability or the power of the three jewels. So these are three, powers that we really contemplate, that we think about, that we know, understand. And without, then if you try to take a refuge in three jewels, our refuge will be very effective and powerful. So when you think about the all-knowing power of the Buddha's quality, the quality of the mind, is that the Buddha is able to really see the truth based on the reality, based on the fact, and based on the clear perception and realization of how things truly function, exist. This is very important. Because once Buddha of course realizes this very clearly how things exist in its kind of a real sense of truth and nature, without knowing that the true constructive the qualities, the power of the compassion, the power of the power to help others would not work, because Buddha is able to see truly how in the three times, past, present, future, how the sentient beings exist in this samsara. What are they going through? How things, the experiences occur due to the function of the dependent origination. And if you look at like the suffering and the happiness that we all, kind of working with, Buddha is able to understand that no sentient being desire for suffering, that all sentient beings desire for happiness. So that's, true, kind of understanding, which is correct and which really is correspondingly working with how sentient beings desire, that Buddha really look at all the sentient beings, seeing in its kind of true naked reality that no sentient being desire for suffering, that all sentient beings desire for happiness. And that realization then leads to, his correct the view, and which is, that how things formed, and in order to eliminate or eradicate the sufferings and its, root causes, you have to understand how things truly exist. Without having that understanding, how things truly exist, you will not be able to really solve this problem of how we get rid of the sufferings that all sentient beings try to free themselves from. And so with that, it's really kind of connecting us to this all-knowing, the power of the Buddha, which comes from the correct understanding about how truly phenomena exist, which is the perfect, wisdom. So this perfect wisdom, which really sees that everything is created with many conditions and factors. We call this samadongpani, the profound emptiness, the shunyata. And this shunyata is really basically telling us that things exist for a number of reasons, causes, and conditions. They're not there as like a fixed, independent phenomena. And with this understanding about the shunyata, the emptiness, seeing the dependent origination, the workings of the different conditions, the causes, and so on, and you understand that there is no concrete intrinsic nature in either phenomena or in sentient beings. With that, then we start seeing then why we're suffering, where we're doing the wrong things. This is due to our mistaken view, the perverted view of a self-grasping mind, this marikpa, the ignorant mind. And the self-grasping mind, or the ignorant mind, is basically, it's against the correct view. And that view of the self-grasping mind is basically, we call this a perverted mind, chinjulop, in which that we are seeing things opposite, unrealistically. And this created then the self-cherishing mind, thinking there is a concrete I, and therefore I must fulfill this need of that I. And this is totally against how things exist. We call this tour the confusion. And so Buddha, on the other hand, knowing that, we have this, perverted view of how things exist, especially when it comes to looking at ourselves. We hold this, I-ness, or the person, the self, as a concrete, intrinsically exist, a permanent. And with that, then what it brings next is bringing this attachment, anger, and ignorance. And these three afflictive, emotions are produced due to this perverted view of the self and of the phenomena. And consequently, we go through incredible amount of suffering in samsara. And so in order to really cut the knot, cut the causes of this suffering, Buddha is teaching the perfect, view, the wisdom. And with this perfect view and wisdom is enabling us to engage with the proper contact. The proper contact is really, in many ways, is a path itself, stopping us falling into the trap of the confused mind, which creates negative deed, and as a result, creating many sufferings. So Buddha, when he's, this understanding about the perfect wisdom and the teaching that, he teaches about this dependent origination, which is very important, because understanding the dependent origination is like a direct antidote to this very, like a concrete, the view, the mistaken view, but the concrete self, the intrinsic nature of the self, and so on, which brings so many sufferings. The self-cherishing mind, for example, this incredibly narrow, mind, this very kind of a limited mind, which produces suffering. It confuses us and leading us to this engage in improper conduct. So knowing this proper wisdom about this, self dependent on so many conditions, factors, and dependent origination and so on, it releases us from this incredible attachment to the self-grasping mind. Therefore, once you really truly realize that this self, produced with the dependent originations, it comes with many different conditions, factors, you really start seeing now this very rigid classification of enemy, friend, beloved one, and you start seeing it as a cracking this wrong view, and you start seeing that all sentient beings desire happiness, that all sentient beings are trying to free from sufferings. You kind of start expanding this true understanding about how phenomena exist and sentient beings exist, and with this correct view of the wisdom. And as you started really through this correct view, you started really cracking on this really rigid, the narrow mind of the self and the self-cherishing mind. And once you started doing that, you started relaxing. You started really expanding the compassion which you have maybe on yourself. Now you started expanding this to all sentient beings. And thus you're really gaining this incredible quality about the unlimited compassion to all sentient beings. And with that, now what we are talking is the power of the compassion. This power of the compassion coming from the correct understanding about the nature of how phenomenon and sentient beings exist. And with reason, the compassion is not only just like a wish or a faith, but this compassion is constructed with the proper wisdom, and it's become unlimitless. That really shining to all sentient beings, and then you realize it is helping to free yourself and the sentient beings out of this miserable samsara. So now we know why we're still suffering in samsara, because of our mistaken view about how things exist. And so when we talk about the quality of the Buddha, I talked about the all-knowing power of Buddha, then the unlimited, this incredible compassion, the unlimited compassion, and this unlimited compassion derived from the correct understanding about this the truth. And through that, then you can now start really doing the activities for all sentient beings. You're able to help the sentient beings because you have these two incredible qualities. You understood the all-knowing power of the mind, which is coming from the correct view, the wisdom. And with that, you're able to establish this incredible compassion. And this compassion is purely exist for the benefit of all the sentient beings. And this compassion that you are practicing is purely for the sake, for the benefit of all the sentient beings. It's such a powerful. Now reflecting this to going back to the Buddha, thinking about the all knowledge of the Buddha, the all-knowing knowledge of the Buddha, this incredibly unlimited compassion, this quality of the Buddha. And then, of course, this power of the Buddha, the capacity, the power of the Buddha coming from this unlimited compassion for all sentient beings, that come from the correct view of how things truly exist. With these three, we call the three powers of the qualities of the enlightened beings, such as Buddha Shakyamuni. And if you take refuge in Buddha now, your practice of the refuge become very powerful and incredibly beneficial, not only for yourself, but to all sentient beings. So that's how we should take refuge. Think about the qualities of the enlightened being, like Buddha Shakyamuni, and thinking about these three qualities. And through that, you are able to take a proper refuge.
So, dini ta tindigi ta chimbalana meba ani zevalana meba nimbalana meba di tujun de ngoshibe tone tene ngazogi ta chilap ju la ya dur chinjilap la ya ngazo chilap juni 다 질랍줘야라 진질라발라 안가저 간디치고래 세나 덴디게 다 침발라나 메바 아니 째발라나 메바 눈발라나 메바기 아니 뜸반데라 ngazu chukelena malena de ani chaplana me bazire dero kainzena ngazu 동행 꾼 살바 제바지 시럽 짜침보기 넘바지 딜란도아 아니 초리 메비 닌지 짜침부지기 넘반 딜란도아 되네 셈바 장보다 전주기 셈 저야기 아니 니 닌지데 여바이나 아니 넘바 짜침부 쉬우지 여바 송장 니 셈진 꾼기 가오치기로아 디 톱고로아 대송장 나츠기 남준도 아니 동행 진인데 출발인바 송장 출발데 자와 매와 진인데 아니 돈이도 비 시럽 만으로바 디당 전주기 심기 nemba dela deni cheba yinzang cho ke lenanda malenanda di changmalwa chapta chopang ganda bungnezi rewa songzang ani nam jundu nga so chilab judu da 수수기 니레 좋아하노라 가라 레가 자와 가라지 제와 있나 아니지 산제지 구승투 연대 젬비 토네 아니 수수기 레나조 가라지 제와 있나 그런 넘버 타고 쳐야 돼 뺏게 쳔무려 다 수수와 nga 라야 돼양 오늘 아니 샤지 두치지 풍보 밤에 쿠라라 템베 아니 지젠 나초 제 나초라 템베 nga데라 아니 지 동에 나초바 아니 지 장보 녜바 라야기 나초바 제 여디엔데양 가서 니레 좋아하는 가서 내가 지고래 아니 미치지고래 미치라야 지겨래 내가 라야지 열에 장에 라야 차지 뭐지 강달 로루치니 곰자와 있는다 내가 가르치 치와 있는다 수수삼배 그런 넘버로 타고 가네 라야디 그런데 타입이 심지어 탐지 라 펜데 토하쇼 네 맞이하쇼 셈바 장부지 신드나 나 셈바 장부지 내가 치와 있나 심지어 탐지 펜토야 서로바 대화요 봐 룰은 나자매 안심라 디지용아 디체들라 아니 얘기 내가지야 아니 지금 점블링 찔라패야 심지어 술라이나 수치랑아 뇌마지바 니라 가르치지난데 심지어라 펜도 용하쇼 되기 때문에 전주기 셈라야다 동반이도 자친부도 딩 또하쇼 딩 아좀 맞아 심지어 참말 또하쇼 디체들라 니 내가지 내가 가지는 검잠나자 안에 소소 자와 내가 롭종 가래 저여나 그런 넘버로 타고 디신 내가 같이 그래 나길 내가 드린 내가 가르쳐 이와이나 네 심지어나 패야쇼 전축 심지어 용하쇼 동반이 양답이 따와 또 제들라 되니 어다 뭐 가리나 빼샤줘야 제도 있나다 내가 가르쳐 있나 아니 수수기 그런 데 넘버 타고 치네 대링이나 가서 루루체네 데라 대야대양 글로나바 타와체네 전주기 셈도니 다와 지 랑라지야쇼 젠라지야쇼 디야우즈 시기면도나 젠랑아 펜동 바시 네바지니지 메와쇼 네 남야마지야쇼 네 라야티 딕셈 라야데 참말로하게 가서 서로바 동에 수수 집으면도 오 디 레텔라 딕베셈 레더와 된 늦지는 디용으로와 대샤 셰당 디목 낙심 내신 럭다 드즈기 아니 랑 이제 참말라 서봐 동해디 용거로 디 대샤 셰당 디무디 마용알라 아니 nga 라야 셴라야 군조라야 돼 아니 뭐 랑신 들점 뭐 주바 들점 매워지 쉐 탐지 띵중이 쟤네 띵용 있는 순간에 라마메 바로 강유를 동바 코라이 어디 동바 매송이나 아니 때니 중에 자와디스디 아니 게티 로마데라야 아니 뒤숨라야 장에 남도 라야 아니 제가 나지라야 용식이 말와 띵중 인바 인자네 정말 용거리 띵중 인자네 라이 동바 용디거와 대산에 아니 진지 말로 따와 또 라야 돼 짜치 뭐 인사리 내가 도나지야 제 같이 내가 도나지 레비 토네 아니 가디는 그런 넘버 타와. 카드는 그런 넘버 타와 제와이나 아서서 레 가르치 제와나 뒤주대 아니 전juk 있습니다. 동번이 또 해지 줄은 저거와 타르바다 탐지신비 공방기 나서기 주사고를 근데 빼자치 무리노와 다네 마인 바이나 아니 뒤주는 로데기로와 아니 디반 사데이레 데니지 롱마 게 메게 롱마 데라야 디기 니츠응하네 아니 떼스지 단조지 류 자침부디 아니 시럽 피도 중앙지 여와 인장 디기원에 지 타르바다 탐지침부터 얘기 수수이 동이 짜와 매버 지야기 탑이 여와 데라 마당와 제나 팜부르와 무슨 직행이 도당이 있는 총례 제와이난다 자와 같이 제와이나 그래서 종라서나 팜송 아니 송 할로서 팜송 아니 마징송 코 팜송 아케솔라니 톱쇼지 심나라 배 미싱감다도 티니갑 잠지로와 다 타뚝 라 아니 딘디 톱쇼 디카네 로용디 전죽심 돈이 잡아서리 네갑 잠마임바 타뚝을 팬데와지 네갑라 팬데야지 영화 인자 아니 가디위나다 강다 그런 자침부 줘야지 계신 분이 있어래 다 드링 그런 타입이 심전 탐지는 아니 잠닌지 전죽이 셈 줄지야 치더라 가서 졸링치기 제로나 대인자는 값수파베게 졸링데 페제 지와 인사리 지와 그러나
So with this, understanding the true qualities of our three jewels, the all-knowing mind, the compassion, and the unlimited power or the ability of the three jewels. And if we take refuge and receive a blessing with this, contemplation, then our practice become meaningful. And as a result of these practices, you are also able to really gain a lot. Therefore, when we think about the sufferings of the sentient beings, it really comes from this narrow mind, this biased mind. But if you really truly practice the refuge properly, it's very important that you have a good heart, or the kind heart, and in which you really expand your, these aspirations to all sentient beings. And when you do that, then you become a very able person. And when you really think about all the sentient beings and their interests and their benefit and practice, that your practice becomes very powerful and very expansive. And with that, then, we're talking about the creating the correct motivation or the intention. And so really having this proper intention as, initial practice is very important. Both for your immediate practices and your kind of post practices. And when you receive, the refuge, the blessings from the three jewels, you really start thinking about, the motivations. So why am I, doing these practices? And if you expand this to all sentient beings, the benefit of all sentient beings, and then that itself, become a very powerful practices. So when you think about, this creating the correct motivation, the first thing is when you look at yourself, saying, who's the self? And really thinking about this, self, or, I, when you look at the body, and this, body with the bone and flesh, coming from initially the seed from your parents with so many, different components. When you look at your body itself, it's not produced with one single causes, but it's really a combination of so many chemical or so many, substances. And with that, then you're thinking there is no concrete, self, but what I perceive as this concrete self is in fact is a dependent origination. It relies on so many substances, so many causes, so many factors. And with these, then you start getting this correct view of emptiness. And when you really look at this, creating the proper intention or the motivation, you can do this even, like when you start your work or for your job, you can, or in your meditation, cultivating this correct view, you can and you should apply this not only during the practice of the taking refuge in three jewels, but before you start your daily work, before you start your daily meditation, and start with the thing, I wanted to benefit to all sentient beings. I wanted to really benefit them. I really wanted to stop myself or others harming the sentient beings, because all sentient beings desire for happiness. They're all trying to free themselves from suffering. And so I'm going to, help, benefit to all sentient beings. I'm not going to harm a single sentient beings. And that kind of motivation is very important. I mean, when you apply this to your work, and your work become now the Dharma practice, right? Before you start, you will say, I wanted to go out there and help all sentient beings. This is a very powerful intention, makes your work a practice. And so when you really look at this, the nature of yourself, you realize it's dependent origination, and that all sentient beings are desiring, like yourself, for happiness. And with this, you understand this like a nature of yourself, and understanding the true aspiration of the sentient beings, true understanding this, correct view that both, phenomena and persons are lacking the intrinsic nature. And with this, proper the reason, using this proper view and practicing the correct intention, then the intention that you are cultivating is become a reason, not just through like a faith or prayer, but you're really looking at a concrete, realistic, approach. You're looking at the things, how things truly exist. With that kind of reasons, you're applying your practice of the, refuge or creating intention. And once you understand the true the nature of the self, how the self exists, and then you realize that it's basically shunyata, the emptiness. And this, when you try to really investigate the self, and there's no single substances which has the self entity or the intrinsic nature, and everything is produced through the working of the dependent originations. And these, working originations, working of the originations, and you start seeing whether the three terms, whether it's self or others, all of these are really lacking this concrete reality, the concrete self. And this will really enable you to gain this correct view, or the unperverted view. And with this view, you can create a really practical and reasonable intention. Intention for enlightenment for yourself and others. And so with that, then when you take this, create this intention of practicing, or whatever you engage, your daily works or meditation or Dharma practice, with creating this proper intention. And this intention itself and the practice itself become the causes for your enlightenment and for others' enlightenment. It will enable you to gain proper understanding about the concept about emptiness, the shunyata. And so from now on, with this creation of the proper intention, that your time, whether you're working, whether you're Dharma practice, whether you're engaging in any activities, become very meaningful. You're not wasting any time. Once you really cultivate these proper intentions with the proper wisdom, the proper understanding about how things exist, everything you do, this time that you are spending become very meaningful. Otherwise, whatever you do, basically, we're wasting our time. So you see, the practice of Buddhism, especially our method, is so expansive. When you do it properly, every engagement that you do become very meaningful. Otherwise, and also you realize what is important in this life and what is not important in this life. When we engage in business practices, doing some, commercial works or doing any other work. Sometimes even, people engage in these wars and battles, and people constantly thinking about winning and losing. And maybe they have some benefit or some immediate reason, but for long term, these are all really harmful, and in long term, they would not help you. But if you really practice Dharma, knowing the proper, the knowledge and wisdom with the proper intentions, the time you spend being very meaningful. It's very powerful, and for long term, it's even become incredible causes for many of unlimited knowledge powers that we gain. And so for this, like in summary, when you think about the creating intention, the intention should be expansive. It includes the benefit of all sentient beings, and through that, really create this compassion, unlimited compassion. And with that, whatever you do become very meaningful, and you're not wasting a single moment of your life. And then, I'm sorry, Gwanda. So today it seems like our format of the teaching is a discussion where we, kind of QA session, and we will start now.
Khandrila, we received many questions before you arrived, and then we also have questions from the audience and also on Zoom. So what we're going to do today is I will ask one question from the pre-questions, and then we'll take a live person on a microphone, and then the Zoom question, and Tenzin will translate.
아니 컨트롤라 들은 것도 주어 망고 쉽지 조선. 근데 자기 규칙에 주어 쉽지 망고 조선. 근데 아니 냠쇼나냐 속에 주어도 상관도 자기가 주어직 되는 냠쇼나냐 주어를 체제 점에 체제 컨트롤라야 표현. 컨트롤라 잘하는 것이. Sure.
So the first question is from many of the students of Lama Zopa. They wanted to ask about your relationship with Lama Zopa when you first met him and what he was like. Do you have any stories to tell us about him?
단지 주어 당부디 라마 소그르 무치 관리인스 아니 컨트롤라 토마 라마르 무치 제두 잠바다 콘다 근데 저와 카리메 하바도 라마르 무치 소그르 무치 관리야 근데 로규 난다 근데 든디 중어저 나로나스
나서 다 디스커버더라.
I'm sure, and it's a little bit difficult, as you know.
나서 닌다 림체 잡지 서버 림체 nga 별로 니슈 칸라 아니 제뇽스
Sure, Lama Khyabtse Sopa Rinpoche, I met him about 20 years ago.
아니 나 공기 가져로다 남다 저거나 다 지야라 할 레비지 짜침 보고는 전에 공기 예외신이 땡치 수주기 아니 중 집에 돈이 아니 줄라 아니 가져로다 셈바 로다 짜침보 아니 예외신이 참말로 수수 춘대 제자니 아니 산정을 수단에 딘리기 아니 할 레비지 짜침보 되니 다지 가르조로 동아기 주 잡실 가르치 짜침부지 제바였는데 참말로 수수기 아니 툭라 춥네 냠네 지니지 레샤 팅기도 나랑은 간이세나 공게 지 숙살라 이나 첸라 제미아 일룩소요 말을 빼데 아니 델 알레페고 니슴 지자네 아니 검짠 아니 디칼라 송 주디트나라 여설다 동반이다 데코나니게 대저 메시 자침보 신도 할래지 자침보들이 송랑이도 티니 오늘 전에 다 지 전주쌤 발라야디 딘더지 매너 아니 전주쌤 줘야 돼 라고리 제야지 ngaran 딘리기 이치다 아니 대박 아니 대마지 심지 탐지로 공 설컬파 공부하듯이 인데 신조도 레마도 이게 타입의 심지 탐지로 nghệ số 로 마통아 타입의 심지 탐지로 전주기 심 줄어져야 동반이 줄어져야 샤다 아직 송되는 지기 딘리기 배자침부 생당的 제바 자침부들이 제송 아니 대대 잡지 아니 딜레테는 공기 똑바트 저 앞에 섬지미 잡아 자침부들이 여살이 아주 탐면 반다지기 나도지 지금 말봐 이나야다 되는 제바체네 잠블링 딜라 아니 산제지 템바지 덴지 기브 탐바나 샵도 표야리 되네 산제 템바져야 돼다 긴디기 딜라 투가 인자네 되네 센제가서 저베 릭스마지베기 건데나나 잡아 똥라 뭐볼라 아니 베 미지나나 아니 가죽으로 다 실라 표야리 되네 최대행기 아니 강발레야리 아니 구승투 지야리 심제 아니지 다지 레당 까와 참베지 아니 심제라 타르바다 탐지 침비 공방 줘야 치돌라 라라라 구승투 지야리 라갈라 또그 담순 나야리 라라라 전주기 셈다 돈인 따와지 짐바 나야리 강달 섬지 메차비지 아니 지부 탐바다 딘디지 나랑이 는 섬지 메차바 딘디다 침부지 제송 대마제 데니지 가르주고로다 랍차리 맹가리 아니 뒤주 찍마리 잠블링 나라 데니지 동행게 나대바지 공기 직송나 통송나 아니지 강나 강도지 나도기도 데마제 잠블링 작업 자일하잖아라 아니 작업 리전은 최소 아니 가실 제구자도 가실 다 대창로와 아니 간용 강에 용수 조바 아니 공기 주 쓸는 게도 아니 나저 침상지인한다 다 초바지인한다 깔레나 초바지 요래 이나 공기 아니 딘지지 가르주로다 잠블링기 딩자디나라 아니 초바나나 강에 나 초바 정말 당들래 아니 베미 대창말로 내가지 또그 당수 타투기 아니 타르바다 탐지침비 공반접에 전주기 쌤 돈이 따와 또야당 렌제바줘야 샤다지 제송 다 할레비 자치무지 제송 또도도 주바이나 다 자비 구승도 연대 나도 페바지 주시야지 말이라
Yes, it's very difficult to really talk about Lama Subramuchi, Gyabji Lama Subramuchi's Namtar, the sacred biography in a short span of time. But when I reflect, I always feel that I had the most really incredible fortunate to meet this very precious teacher. And he himself, when you look at his activities, he studied Dharma, entered in the Dharma since at a very early stage of his life. He relied and received teaching from so many teachers. And one incredible, I think, quality of Zopa Rinpoche is once he established a guru and a disciple relationship, he really sees that person as a truly enlightened person. He sees the teachers that he received the teaching as a true Buddha. And that's whether it's receiving Tantra or Sutra teaching, but he received many Tantra and Sutra teachings from many different teachers, and he really treated them like a true Buddha, and with this utmost kind of respect. This is one kind of a very out, like outstanding qualities that I perceived from Rinpoche. And then another quality of the Rinpoche is a true practitioner. I've seen his, living quarter in his bedrooms, where he hardly sleep on bed. He plays some doll on his bed, but in the night he's constantly engaging in these very profound meditations, like a clear light mind, and practicing bodhicitta and practicing shunyata emptiness. And unless he's engaged in other like activities benefiting sentient beings, when he's alone, he's constantly meditating on shunyata, on clear light stage of mind, on bodhicitta. And then he constantly think about the welfare of other sentient beings. And any engagement that he really conduct, he dedicate this benefit of all sentient beings. And when he dedicated, he doesn't seem to have any limitation. It's this incredibly unlimited, the most expansive compassion that he had for all sentient beings. And based on this kind of the power of the compassion, and then he engaged, engaging in a virtuous deed, like serving to the 3 major monastics, like Serodepung Gande, and many other monasteries from different traditions. He's serving them for the Sangha's meal, and he's providing the clinics for the monks. And then in order to benefit all the sentient beings, he's engaging in generating merits, including building statues, around the world. And when he does that, he really dedicates this for all sentient beings attaining nirvana, all the full enlightenment. So whether he's engaging in the practice of generosity, whether he's engaging in like building some shrine room or temples, and his ultimate goal is to create these massive merits. So this will benefit to all the sentient beings. And so when you observe that practice, a true Bodhisattva, I feel when I'm with him, and I feel that's like we are so fortunate to really be with this true Bodhisattva. He engages in many activities around the world, building schools and building Dharma centers. And he had over 100, he had built over 100 Dharma centers around the world. And when you manage these Dharma centers, sometimes he had 8 to 9 centers in one country alone. And there are many, problems, and problems coming from administration and management. We all know that, we're familiar with that. So he really go through detail of this all problems arising from this in different Dharma centers, and he really tried to address, because the primarily, his aim is to help the sentient beings. So sometimes he's really taking full responsibility for the practitioners, meals and living quarters. Sometimes, he's really engaging in generosity, really relieving people from poverty and so on. But with this ultimate, intention to really enable the sentient beings attain full enlightenment. And with these kind of activities, while it's going on, he dedicates this for the sentient beings. So of course, the benefit is really purely, but not for him, but for all the sentient beings. And when he's not doing that, then he engaged in a profound meditation on shunyata, bodhicitta, and this clear light, the stage of mind. So this is what I observed. And when I see him, I see a true Bodhisattva. I see this incredible being, and I constantly feel so fortunate to be in his presence. So that's my reflection of meeting Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche.
계산다 공바춘스 티면 제바도연데기 오늘 잠을링 찔라 아니 오늘 전에지 가서로 다시 총침부 자송 쟁도 간이세나 공 뒤준도 파주는 잠링라 가와 페바이나 아니 배데 남주나라 아니 전죽샘다 돈이 거기 빼자거나 감지 nga 된티케니 룽포야당 아니 퇴 통퇴 제리 용수 줘봐라 아니 빼 제바자지 된리기 자침부 다 탁발들 림부치 은주르기 아니 자침부 들려 꼭줄트도 항상한데 제 팅도 탁발들 라면도 장 저희노지 지송까지 잡직 총직 제야다 아니지 다 산지 덴바지다 샘진 찔러 오는 전에지 거자 첨부서 자송 팅도 아니 다 단에 그가 가서라 내가 대도 준비 아니 림부치지 잠불링라 로마 용서 줘봐기 아니 공바 장야라 가서 창말로와 샘다 펌부레 가서 로마 솔류 다 라마라 아니지 가와지라 대바이나 아니지 강에 태도요 말이 샘제라 참닝지 천주기 샘당 아니 자무 동반이기 니수용안에 데니 존중안에 안상마 안데 샘제 참말로 핀디끈 코나만도 요 매바 송장 가서원에 가두이나니 년중 차선양 답이 다와 진지 말로와라 배전치야 라메지 조 냠지나야 근데 인상 맞저기야 아니 대바다 다낭 이치 아니 라메 송대야기 깔로 아니 심두 그래 손에 아니 전주기 쌤다 돈이 제야지 시트즈 참말로 가서기 허다 바다 냠네 나로나 아니 디체바이나 라마이콜라 디룽요 말에 라메 질랍라 장정동요 말에 가서칠 직 대바다 이치 랍지요나 질랍다 이치 랍 대바다리 이치 딩즈요나 질랍다 이치 딩 대바다 이치 타마나 드메나 질랍다 이 타마요 말에 대바다 이치 짜와네메나 질랍 중요요 말에 니야 아니지 주 타두기 그래 덴델로와 메베기 로단스 인자 정말로와 심 마슈미 토네 아니 냠네 나로나
So Lama Sukhramji passed away, and it's such a tragedy. It's a huge loss, not only for ourselves, but for the really entire world, because Rinpoche, constantly and always really there, working for the benefit of all sentient beings. Just a small example: when he traveled by aeroplane. When he's flying, he will bring a few volumes of text, the kanchu or tenchu, and he really carries these with him to benefit people who are traveling through the a blessing of these volumes, through the vibrations, through the air, is spreading around, so it benefits most sentient beings, and those who can see the text, the sutra, the precious sutra, who can hear about the sutra, who can really feel about the sutra. All of these, sentient beings are getting these immediate blessings from this, sutra, and he's doing that just as an example how he's trying to think about the interests of the sentient beings. And then there are many really kind of his profound activities, obvious, the secret activities. One thing that we know from our kind of common observation, that he takes the advices of His Holiness the Dalai Lama at his heart. He constantly tries to realize or to fulfill the wishes of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he constantly really engaging to preserve and promote the Buddha's teaching, the doctrine of the Buddha, and for the benefit of all sentient beings. So wherever he goes, he carries this ultimate mission, benefiting to all the sentient beings. And because of that, although Rinpoche is no longer with us, but wherever he is, he's somewhere there benefiting more sentient beings. Because someone with his kind of a status, a true Bodhisattva, he would not really have any kind of a personal loss or suffering, but he will continue his aspiration. So wherever this precious being, there will be many sentient beings are right now receiving benefit from him, and so that's we should know. And then for our purposes, the ultimate advice and the practices of Rinpoche is really engaging true practices. Mahayana practices benefit many sentient beings. So we really take his advice at our heart and practice, these three principal paths, renunciation, the bodhicitta, and correct wisdom. And we should engage in these three practices, thinking about the kindness and the advices of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Although he's no longer with us, but with our devotion for the, as I mentioned, these precious gurus, for their blessings, the distances, the time, space, doesn't make any differences. As long as your devotion is strong, powerful, and his blessing will accordingly correspond or respond to that. So we usually say the blessings of the guru is pretty much, dependent on our devotions. When we have this most powerful devotions in gurus, we get the most powerful blessing. When we have, intermediate, devotions, we also get the intermediate blessing. So it's really depends on our kind of approach. And understanding these, the Lama Zopa Rinpoche always advises us that we should subdue or tame our mind. And his ultimate advice always said, tame your mind, practice bodhicitta. And this is advice, and we should, really do that. And with that, then if we practice following his advice, and we will benefit for so many sentient beings, and this will delight him. That's his ultimate, aim.
Thank you, Khandrila. That's very meaningful and very inspirational for all of us to hear.
Sorry, I missed one very important teaching from Khandrila just before finishing the teaching. Khandrila is making point, when you practice compassion, when you practice in this correct view, you don't have to become a Buddhist, because this is like a benefit of practicing compassion. The altruistic thinking, really engaging in the study of the correct views, the shunyata. That power itself is expanded to any human being. It's not limited to the Buddhist. So although, it's a Buddhist teaching, but when you engage in the practices, results yield to any human beings, any sentient beings. And this is very important to remember.
Yes.
Okay, we can take a question from the audience now. If someone has one, they can bring a mic around. Yes.
How do you Thank you. Hello, Teacher. How do we guarantee that in the next life we will meet the Dharma again? Or when we meet it, we recognize it and we have the desire to practice? Because the first half of my life was chaos, and then I met the Dharma. So
So in the three principles, a part of the Lama Tsongkhapa, he's saying, our life is very short, so unpredictable, and make the best use of it. And then for this life and for future life, it's determined by our actions of this life. If we follow the proper, the karma, the relationship of the, cause and effect, the karmic, relationship, and this will really yield the result in our future. So for the day and the night, working toward freeing ourselves and others from samsara, really engaging in activities which become the causes for you to produce the nirvana or the enlightenment.
미기 주봉이 주름라 소바 토네 전주 있습니다. 돈이 나와라 같이게네 도나지바나 다 베르스는 미기 주봉이 주름도 송와이나 아니 마음발라 아니 밀리자치 못제다 되는지 리과 아니 튼제 용수도 같이 용 타주더레스 아니 디칸라 지다 전주 있음 자치 못제다 돈이 나와데 자치 못데 용원데 갈래 도나지바이나 Sindela, Jiba, Deva, Anne, Maumbalena, and Kalela Tarba, the Tamjin Kumbanzo de, you and Tesomio Maris.
So engaging in the practice of 10 virtuous activities, really refraining ourselves, engaging in non-virtuous deed, but really engaging in positive deed without practicing bodhicitta, the bodhicitta and emptiness. When you do that, this will really, its incredible causes, enable you to lead a meaningful life for this life, and also attain many wonderful qualities for future life. And practicing the bodhicitta and emptiness, really for this life, which will really ultimately enable you to attain liberation from the samsara and or even attaining full enlightenment. So looking at this life and thinking about, the bodhicitta emptiness, practicing in the generating 10 virtuous deeds.
나저 최치지는 대발라 아니지 당연 대바다. 근데 대바 이 집에 대바 쓰면요. 다 대수는 이 집에 대바도 빼 계신거래. 근데 돈은 로와이나 안 네가 다도 참아 다시 뭐 잘했어.
Also, when we practice the devotion, there are 3 different types of devotion. Devotions come from the faith, devotions come from, reasons, and so on. So really practicing devotion built by reasons is very powerful.
A question from the Zoom audience. How important is a continuous meditation practice for transforming your mind next teachings? Besides teachings, how important is your continuous meditation practice for transforming your mind?
Oh, I see.
You can take a look.
It's meditation. What is next to teaching?
I think besides
Teaching.
going to
I
teachings.
see. Yes. 디 ngaranzo lojo nyamni chiwar ba. Da ngaranzo lojo chik tune nyamni chiya jor ba. Da chik chiyo rantone. Da dine tune ma chone da chik gyundeng chwa na ya mutu lojo nyamni chiya dilya kye chenpo rwe di kendes chiyo res. Da ngaranzo tune samsam ba.
알았어. 하리 제다 지단계 로종 라야지 여러라. 다 로종당라. 직망 보셔저와. 너네 네가 지 강에 쓸와 잠지 아니 양 타투기 다지 녀모 아니 지 년집다 시집 다 창물로라 봐 가서로다 마 매바지야기 탑 아니 체벌받 소소 하마거나 로 종투 말봐 다 로종래디 레라원라 진연중 자서 양답이 따와지 오늘 단내 수수기 하거나 아니 뒷방어시 아니 뒷바임바 출방어시 아니 마출바시 시럽 체벌진데 가리임바당 출내 셈제 아니 코르발라 낭수 내주 마트마체네 로데야데 하고베 토네 근데 준데네 양사 곰네 홍보 아니 퇴바 튼중이 고하다 삼중이 고하 되네 년시 제응도 되나라 아니 똑바쟁으로와 저지 점이 쓸라네 내 공부를마도 돼 용금도 알라 겁나 야부도 겁나 나는 매와도 내가 요만이 있어도
So when we talk about mind training or mind transformation, there are, we usually have this temporary, or the immediate transformation, and then there's ultimate, transformation. So the ultimate transformation of the mind is really clearing the obscurations to omniscient, like a state, and the primarily the ultimate, practice is really clear all the subtle obscurations to all-knowing this quality. So that's the ultimate. And so for the immediate practices, and also which applies for this ultimate, the practices of the mind or transformation is first to understand the nature of the negative deed, the knowing this confused the state of the mind which produces many negative deeds. Knowing that is very important for mind transformation practices. And once you really realize this confused like a mental the perceptions, and knowing that how things appear differs how things truly exist, knowing this distinction is very important. Once you really know that through studying, and then continue your study, hearing teachings, really doing a lot of contemplations, and with that then you start realizing that how things truly exist, how things differ from how we perceive things. And you constantly hearing, practicing, and meditate. And then what happened is that you get, this first we, do the meditation, and we get the realization or the understanding with the, effort, with, our meditation. We gain this understanding. And as we continue these practices, later it's become effortless understanding, where you really gain this understanding without any kind of paying special effort. And once you're getting this like effortless understanding of how you see things, which is following the correct views, and this is what we call now, you really have the habit, the habituation. You already created this habituation of a mind perspective, which really understand how truly things working, the working of the appearances and the reality. And with that, then you're constantly engaging in practices. Your mind is in one with the Dharma practices. So that's you really transform initially with the effort practicing, really understanding the true nature of the things, and gradually ingraining them in your mind, so that without any effort, you're already having these perceptions. And so that's usually how you really ingrain and how you build these Dharma practices in your daily life, regardless of the time and the places. And that's what I think Shantideva saying, once you really get used to doing something, nothing is difficult for us.
The next question is from the pre-teaching group. How do we keep joy and one-pointed attention when practicing? How do we keep joy?
Keep joy and one-pointed attention. Okay. 주가 디나 디나 무식 좋아도 동안 그래도 저도 디가는 싶어서 알아서 신의 그 딘다 딘도 말한도 지기다 로츠딜이야 심샤베 급이야 엔지 로드 보지 기부치제 가서다 신의 냠님의 집그 강의 매치제 신의 대화점도 지금 가고도도 지금 로 시간이야 설레지 하죠 디치아야 맹아가리나스
알았어 라서 신이 라다 mikpa chik shilani bi shine da lam trosu cha bi shine ro chik chinangi tani sawa da me ro jire chingdo perezena shine loksu komu ba ani Jirim zo gomna shini rangshin rubruwa. Jirim. Sanga ini singani. Ani los goya mise sungi marala. Ani yang lo jigla teni shini gomzu nana. Ta chingu nirwa. Chiwanda koba. Shini yida karjuguru. 다 지 내센터라데 제주데 다 지원다 그거니데 대 용원대랑 다 라마 냠뇽제제다 아니지 로마 대파 메규 시럽 연조지가 체바이나 아니 그람 따다지야 숭 투기지레 요지로라 덴지롱도 아니 베레지나 신인디 야고즈 고마시나디 양지 자기가 룽기리 곰디조디 지당 야고 마시바이나 다양 쩨몽보여와 나저 곰라이디 곰지다야 진짜네 가르치는 공부를 라디 동네 만들어봐 있잖니 동네데 매워져요 대화디 컴퓨터 땅에 치들어와 대소와 인자네 동보 곰주시 로데 만으로바지 하고 mikpaceji semceji la teva tsam chigi chewa ina ko tezam ni 같이 데이터가 있나 대잠지 든데즈린도와 베르지나 안구티 저거 저게 추주 이징한서 되지로와 가서 곰자도 가르치 공고에나 당진다 랑진질라 내이 곰디 곰진데네 아니 지까마 아니 옥차 추주 갈래 이제 곰버치네 심 랑밥수 야당 자룽 레당 셈 랑밥수 샤당 셈이 오 장당 르니 셈니 용수도와 냠뇽제제 마티고 그래 안데 중앙이나 아니 신이 야부차기로 와 자베 객세발라 아니 지원다 그봐 니니 지당이라고라도 제와이나 다지 셈 두샤나 아니지 가서 공목조해당 셈 인차나 아니지 가와쇼야 아니지 가르쳐다 대화 용어 인자는 대상물로 아니 르니 르창 셈창 룽창 자룽창네 용서 저거 랑밥스 냠뇽진지기 티 거야 돼 개침부인 받아
So the question regarding the single attention, one-pointed concentration, and how can we continue with the joy without any effort and a problem. So I think you're talking about the karma abiding, the shine here. Shine, when we talk about it, there are many different ways of practicing shine. One of the practices is really engaging in the Tantra practices, where you engage in the practice of a generation stage. Your really concentration is in contemplating on the deities. So that's one approach. The other then a meditation method for accomplishing development of single-pointed attention. And so when you talk about this is a unique, the Tantra is a unique, then there are other approaches. But if you look at the main hindrance, the obstacles for your meditation, we usually identify the two forces. Or the first is like the dullness, your mind become too like the sinking experience, the dull. The other is overexcitement, where you're constantly drifting your attention to others. So these two, what we call these primary the forces working against our karma abiding. And so this what and then the other the development of a single-pointed meditation. One of the profound instructors is you really have to first meet a proper qualified guru. Then with this qualified guru, the disciple received the teaching, and the disciple really is able to generate a true devotion, unyielding devotion. And many teachings say this unyielding, this really sincere devotion is become, a very important causes for the realization of single-pointed meditation skill. So when we talk about meditation, basically meditation is really creating and setting our mind to become familiar with the subject that you engage. And so we're doing that because we wanted to cut off the suffering. We wanted to generate the happiness, and because we really desire happiness, and that's where we're engaging in the meditation and the practices. And so knowing that is very important to really know what are the proper causes that really enable single-pointed equipoise. It's very important. And also in Buddhism, the generating the single-pointed equipoise itself is not considered the ultimate goal or important. This is because if you look at the pigeons, sometimes they sit really steady and well focused for hours. For Buddhism, this is not the end, because the sufferings that we are all going through comes from this mistaken view, this self-cherishing mind, this self-grasping mind. And so really cutting that, really eradicating these very rude causes of suffering is our ultimate goal for the meditations. For that, there are many different techniques taught. And in some of the meditation techniques where, our body postures, including the channels, the wind, and the tickly, the drops, and really having, a good understanding about how the energy flows in our mind, how the channels, and so on, that, visualize in our body, and they really become very important part of the instruction for generating single-pointed meditation. And then, of course, as part of that, you also get teaching for the antidote for overcoming dullness, antidotes overcoming this wondrous or this over-excitement mind. And with that, so in some of the advanced teaching for attaining the single-pointed, meditation skill is really working with your body, your body posture, working with your mind, working with your wind, the channel, working with your wind, and really knowing how to contemplate and how to really set them properly, and become very important preconditions for engaging this profound meditation, which lead to a single-pointed, equipoise.
We can now take a question from the audience. So.
How do we use sorry, how do we use desire in the path as the path?
Ranzu lamji sungo rwa, lamji ga deja lamji se deja condition ranzu the chub lamji ya gyurtu res, lamji sum sing sum do lamkir, deja lamji sunde, desire the deja the con.
Less the decha lamche laya da the sanga gi timu mai vijeda karzoruda ji timu mai vegi chanjugi semda doni selli rodan yusu and jima mai veji dongbani to nishi jawanda chanjugi sem jima mai veji yaji nichungane soyan din yoris ngazu tanta tamemba dinreina decha lamche da kago shirari tele 가르주고로 안에서서 저 동해 모시 같아 지하대 개체물이 줄비 동해 제반 두시지 동해 라야지 모시에서 와이나 두시지 동해 된 모시나 아니 대샤 람시칸 랑가가야 로야지 탑 제발 제주래 두시 동해 거 마시나 대샤 람시 제가 지나 많이 와도요.
Yes, this practice for carrying desire in the path. This is a very unique tantric practices, the Vajrayana practices. And basically the practice is really utilized for, gaining ultimate, realization of emptiness and, bodhicitta, or using them, this like taking desire on your path to reinforces your understanding about bodhicitta and emptiness, a very unique tantra teaching. And for us as beginners without proper training, this is not something easy to put in practices. That's my view. But for us, the common practitioners, I found really understanding the true nature of the suffering, what causes the suffering, what is the deep rooted of the suffering, I found is very powerful. Once you really have a deep understanding, the appreciation about how suffering is produced, how it's working, how it's functioning, then I think antidote that you may apply later become powerful, and this is a way to really help to reduce your suffering. And so usually I tell this to people, really to understanding this working of the suffering, really looking at the sufferings of suffering, the nature of the suffering, the sufferings of the change, and the sufferings of the pervasive condition. And especially without really truly understanding these sufferings of the pervasive conditioning, and when you try to engage in the desire activities, instead of lifting it up, it will really sink you in a very deep, hole. So understanding this pervasive condition, the sufferings of the pervasive condition is very important, really, to work with the suffering.
This is from the Zoom question. Can you speak to Guru Yoga? How can we integrate a strong Guru Yoga practice in our daily lives?
Kanurum chigo lamen enjo ko ya tes ngo jona ronas. Karanzu lamen enjo nyamne chibe ko ya lamen enjo nyamne di nyire so na ya kdes. Ane laglin chokles.
Rang lamin enjo di tachidang ya woshi marada lamin enjo nyamne chibala. Hangbo lanma se lana meba sene lama zoya de la khanditsigla lama lagudo suso ya wutsi ngoshi goro wala. 아니 지 가서 달라면 nenjo세 라용되드나 라만데 다지 전에 산지 전에 예담 전에 간로 바보 최종수만 세 용서 조바진 뒤대비 다니지 차대 그래 이나야 달라메 nenjor 고말라 라마 당보 만으로 같이 된 거로 아니 라마 라야디 지다 자침부 된지 런도이가 위시당 당아이가 위시당 망부지요로와 아니 가르주고로 잠도 되지 나네 다조 잡수줘야지 자와 투는 라마를 투는 되나라 전에라마 전에 산지 송는 되나라 로 아니 가서 산지 좀 된디 아니 구송투기 질랍용서 조바 가든지 라마티 나네 아니 용돼야지 아니 담비추 라야기 다 로친지 말로바 되니 용서 줘봐 자친구들 이 담이 질랍이는데 라면 질랍이는데 다 라만티기 송거리 빵랑 게틱 용서 줘봐 아니 수수 니갑다 타투기 랑가 용서 줘봐 된바 인상 디 라나메바 지송로와 대송자니 라만티라고 겐디 툭 담주 아니 송 아니 상아 아니 툭 추고 니디지 구송 군디지 다니 리자리지기 다니 대체 상마 하고야라 아니 상젤 라야다 장축 라야기 대수디 수수기 이치여바지 녜시제 디시 포와지당 직수수 심나라 딩출레바지 고그로와 딜레송에나 되네 다 맞아 가 제와이나 질랍 죽다 만죽 줘야 돼 대바이시 라만라라린들이 Then Yedam Lazo Nanga Kang Yobaina, the Sama Loa, Lame Nenju Namjudla, Rabashateva. And Yedam Daji Karazi Yimba Inanda, Samana Lame Ngola, Lame Namjul Daya. And Suzang Yonsoba. This Samaloa, that's why in Antony, Lamadi, any Karishuguru, Nazo, any Zachimbures, any Lamagi, Nazolabe, Katsura Chilap Nawari, Zachimbures, Lani, Mundi Maimba, and Tawe Tabata, Ngundu Tabata, Ichibi, Tabai, Drangne, and Lamene. Lamene Jocom, Selavaina, Sanjeta Chanjusemba, O Tuni Ninja Zunga Shate, Lamach. Tuni Ninja Zunga Shate, Lamazonani, so Nemalan Jorva. And Suzukia, Longa Yisumde, Nemalan Jovari. And Karjuro, Chimbalana Meba, Nubalana Meba, Zevalana. Guyunde, Tuyunde, Chilenyunde, Samji, Meva Yunga de Tamaloa, Deni, Chanjuki Semda, Doni, Dawa, Disamalo, come Dishinimbo, Yon, Suzoba, Dingola, Lana Meva, Yova Inzan, Disma, Dunindi, da Lama Inzan, Deni, Chi Tartuk Negab, Yon, Suzoba, da Lama Kingani, Chilap Sama, Lame Juni, Yonga Inzan, Any, Lame Nenjo. Taji Gomiantang Tabachi at the big kitchen burwa, on the Sarva. Ane Taji Androna, Ane Lama, Katsuro Taji, Jiola Gomia, Ane San and Jimbala Gomia, Ane Jesa Jidong Puture, Ane Niena, Ningala Gomia, Ane Ni Silla, Ane Doya, La Sobagi, Takanda, Rocha, Niesumio, Suzoba, Ane Rangi. 아니 그거지 튠제지 렉소 첨부터 여와이나 델라멘 치라 아니 랑라 만두비 아니지 개개 첨부터 여와이나 데 참말로 랑기 딕바타니 딕바타소 라마지 응좀 나소 제니 다 항달 되니지 진지 레버용 소바 통네 아니 다 라멘네저 냠슬리야 줘야지 개침부 인사로와 아니 산지 좀 된데지 제제지 동용 수조바 간된 짜침부 제와 이와 얘나 라마라 대바메나 대 질랍된 주고요 예서 말에 다 주바세 이냐다 산지 좀 된데 담질라 아니지 헤메베기 디니마 수술라 미야라다 라마 메드 미루와 인자네 디니 라메넨주 다 뒤다 넘버 군드 수수기 가져로 인중 창세 양답이 따와지 When Chivaina go jump to the Simji Inza, and Lama, Sanje, Lama, Chu, Lama, Gindu, you also over there. Then Kajuguru, Sangaji, Jirim Zogrim to the Kazuki, Haji Wanda, Kajizu Yovainandi, and the number Idam. Karizi number Sharvaina, Moza Lama Imbala, and number Itam did and de Silayata. 아니 라마 대양 엔지 미수수 마임바 아니지 직된 페바니 나오자 마임바 아니 수수 산지스 응스다 응스테니 다 텐데 자침보지 공부를 치발라 수수 가르쳐다 대바당 당낭 라야 돼 계시고 있으래 저데 수 뒤송하나 다 대바당낭 아 지송까지 쭉 라야 돼 Kitchen in Zara, in a lama yantaba mena galekawara, the lame nanger comela, the Hangnan tamji lame roba, ani Tata tamji lame, ani soon. Ani Ditamaloa, ani Dewa, Tomba, Silva, ani Dedonis maybe, say number lama, ani. Go can do in Andra, Karina number Mandashatevandi, Jen Kangdar, Dordina, Chilamen Angel Comedy. Tony Ninji Zuna, Ribu Kona, the Imbitone, and Chilabju at the Hinzera. Tender as a mendo.
야, 쭉, 마, 쭉. 삽자서로 시도.
Yes, so Guru Yoga, I think the question is relating to the practice of the Guru Yoga. Can you hear me at the back? Yes, the practice of the Guru Yoga is a very important part of our practices. And this is because our ultimate goal, again, is really to cut off the suffering. To eradicate the afflictions, which really produces all set of sufferings. And these afflictions are coming from this confused state of mind, from perverted perception. And so it is the Lama, the Guru, who teach us the correct view, and which clears this confusion. So you can see how important the Guru is for your realization. And therefore, for us, seeing Guru should be the embodiment of all the teachings and Buddhas, all enlightened qualities. So this is how important the Guru is. And so in the Guru Yoga, the word Guru is sometimes have the connotation about unlimitless, unexcept. The Guru, the world. This is because the blessings of the Guru is really unexcelled. Why? It's really enabling us to gain this most profound wisdom. And this free us from the suffering. So there's no, other, comparable knowledges and blessings that we get other than from Lama. So that's how important the Guru is. For that reason, the first step is very important to choose the right Guru. Make sure that you really, when you choose a Guru, make sure that you do your own homework, because it's the very first, important step. And then when you, looking at the different definitions of a Guru, according to Tantra, the Vajrayana teachings, according to Sutra teachings, there are many, different explanations. But in essence, when we take the refuge in three jewels, and when you're thinking about the quality of the Buddha, the quality of the enlightened beings, we are able to appreciate that qualities. We're able to get the blessings and learn, understand these qualities thanks to our Guru. So you see how important Guru is for us to appreciate and have understanding about Buddha's teaching, and likewise really to appreciate the Dharma. This teaching of this enlightened being, Buddha Shakyamuni and many other Buddhas, we are able to appreciate, we're able to see, hear, learn the teaching due to the kindness of the Guru. Without the Gurus, there's no way we can really understand and go deep into these teachings. So this when you take the refuge and thinking about the quality of the Buddhas, thinking about the quality of the Dharmas, thinking about the quality of the Sanghas, you are able to appreciate these, three jewels. And with that, you're gaining this incredible devotion. With that, you're taking refuge. And all of this really, a result of the kindness of our Guru. Our Guru is really introducing us, exposing, and really bring us into these incredible qualities of the enlightened beings. And therefore, Guru is really the embodiment, and it is really very source of all the realizations, the understanding that we gain. And therefore, sometimes in devotional prayers, people say the Guru's body is the Buddha, the Guru's speech is the Dharma, and the Guru's mind is the Dharmakaya, and so on. So everything is really the quality of the enlightened beings, and our understanding, appreciation, and some of the realizations that we gain through the practices is due to the kindness of the Guru. And that's where Guru is very important, because it's important for our the intermediate kind of a practice is very important for our long term practices. With that, so when you're able to really look at the kindness of the guru, through looking at the qualities of the guru, these blessings that we're getting through the guru of all this, enlightened activities, and therefore it's very important to associate, all the blessings and all these incredible, fortunes that you experience with the, guru. For example, when you kind of had a vision of, deities full of, space in front of you, it's very important that these are sometimes like a manifestation of a guru's kindness. We say for the yoga practitioners, the deity yoga practitioners, the deity that we are engaging with our practices is in essence is a manifestation of our gurus, no other than our gurus. So seeing, guru in all aspects of our Dharma practices, our perceptions, our, kind of experiences, really integrating all these experiences, our daily practice is called the proper practice of the guru. So in Tibetan, I explained to you, the concept about the guru, why the guru is unexcelled, because he is the source of all the ultimate profound knowledges that enable you to free ourselves and others from the samsara. Then the yoga, which is really basically talking about understanding this very powerful quality of the guru, the kindness, and then without building this devotion. There are three types of devotions, especially these devotions coming from the reason, and the logic is a very powerful one. And these all, although we're talking about devotions, this very devotion that we experience is also kind, thanks to the guru's kind. And with these gurus, understanding true the qualities, the knowledge, compassion of the guru, the how, this guru is really become the channel for us to really gain all the realizations of the different in the deity and so on. And with that, when you build a devotion, then your devotion become not just a mere superstitious. It's not, blindfolded, faith, but really devotion yielding from a, profound wisdom, the reasons. And with that, then what you have to do is integrate this, really seeing every aspect of your Dharma activities, the realizations, the visions, it being a manifestation and a blessing of your guru. And that's, what we call the yoga. It's very important, practice. And so in that, then the guru is become the essence of, omniscience, compassion, and the most, able to powerful. And the guru is really the essence of our Patagadagarpa, right? The essence of the Deshinyingpo,
Essence of
the Buddha nature. So in reality, the teacher becomes the essence of our, Buddha nature, and that's what guru is. And with that, his manifestations are all, around us. When we get, some blessings, some small, like realizations, awakenings, they all kind of, you should see it as through the blessings of the guru. That's what we call the yoga here. And with that, seeing Buddha as the essence of our Buddha nature, and Buddha is, seeing the inseparability of the emptiness and the blissful experiences, and and with that, as you continue practice, seeing every wonderful qualities as part of the guru's blessing, and seeing some of our misfortunes as a guru's blessing to purify our negative deeds. This is very important. And then whatever the 84,000 dharmas that we learn is actually thanks to our gurus who, being there and transcending this. Right, through the manifestation of guru as a deity, guru as many other forms teaching us, and with these continued practices, then you start seeing guru in a pure perception. You see whatever the experiences of the guru, you see this as a positive. And because actually also guru is a very important link between yourself and the Buddha. All these, Tantric and Sutra practices that you receive has to come through a lineage, and your guru is the gateway for you to tracing your experience back to as far as the Buddha, and so on. So here, then the guru is also very important from this point of view. He becomes the gatekeeper for you, really connecting you to many enlightened beings of the past masters. And with that, then if you practice guru yoga, if you practice deity yoga, then you will realize that all of these are actually any practices that you are manifestation of none other than our guru. And with that, it's very important to follow guru's advice. Having the pure, perception, follow his advices, and seeing everything as a manifestation of a guru. And if you follow this, and then you see even, your practice and the realization of the inseparability of the emptiness and the blissful experience, in fact, this very experience itself is the guru or the blessings of the guru. And so that's how you integrate the guru yoga in your daily life.
Thank you so much, Khandrola. That concludes our questions, and thank you very much.
아니, 바람나를 주된 대시인
라서
그린치스
몰랐어.
아니지 만져도
네. 예. Thank you.